Hi, it's Ileana, and today I'm going to be discussing the completion of my Metatron Merkaba Cube and the sphere holding container. This project has been completed. The models were 3D printed, and it was done in the size of 6 inches. So the Merkaba, Metatron Merkaba Cube, it looks very great three-dimensionally. It turned out, so we were doing the designs from 2D to 3D with Dana in AutoCAD, and then he was converting to the files into DRM, STEP, and STL, and he sent the STEP files to Matthew Percival from the 3D RE company who did the printing designs for these models. So he did a prototype and printed it as a whole with PLA material, and that's plastic. It's a form of plastic that 3D printers take. It's very solid, it's very durable, and I quite enjoyed the results. It is fantastic looking to me. It's in light blue. It has these wonderful spheres on it. It's 12 base. Altogether, the base is 12. When you create sacred geometry objects, it has bases. It could be a base of starting from 4, 6, 8, 12. I like my base to be 12 because it embodies everything energetically and frequency-wise. It's a complete frequency tuner. This beautiful Metatron Merkaba cube. It's beautiful. And it doesn't look like a cube. It doesn't look like this. It actually looks like it has many multiple sides to it. That's why I like it. And it's in light blue. It was originally in dark blue when Dana rendered it. But when it went to print, the design actually ended up being light blue, because with PLA color, you can select multiple colors. There's a wide variety of what's available for printing PLA, because it's durable, it's long lasting, it's resistant to fading, but it shouldn't be kept out in the sun. Because like anything, crystals can fade, plastic can also fade. It's resistant to it, but I wouldn't be putting it out in the sun or on a windowsill where there's a lot of bright light, because eventually stuff can fade. It's pretty good in not fading, but I don't have it anywhere near a windowsill where it's cold, where it could be cold, or where there's too much light. So I keep it the way I have the first model. It's powering my holographic fractal portal vortex meditation grid. It's powering that with my dragon statue protectors, the owl, and a dragonfly made out of crystals. So this beautiful Metatron Merkaba cube in light blue, it's sitting underneath the meditation display powering it. And I'm going to show a few images of it. I took a lot of photos of what this looks like and how it functions for me. So I'm going to be showing the slides later on, but I wanted to describe the experience. So we printed it as a solid, a complete whole. Then we printed the second model, just the Merkaba and the sphere separately, and then it was glued together. And it looks nice too. It's seamless, it's perfect. So it works both ways for the designs. But we wanted to see if there would be any difference and in terms of quality. And I think for me, it's when it's printed in several pieces, it's actually a bit smoother in quality. So the quality is slightly better. because it has a smoother surface when you print the Merkaba separately from the spheres, then glue it with Nectolite glue. This is an industrial super glue, so it's not going to come apart. You can drop it, it's still going to hold because it's super, super strength glue. So it's industrial glue. So it's holding it pretty well. And then we also printed the sphere holding container. We printed that in a light purple. And it's interesting, it's sort of like a pink and purple together. So it's pretty nice in terms of the color. And it's also 6 inches, and it holds the Metatron Merkaba Cube inside it, inside the sphere. So the sphere was cut in half, so it opens and closes. And you can take it with you for meditation. You can put it on a stand, and it has a little indent at the bottom, so you could put it actually on a table and it will stand up flat. The sphere itself is not flat, but it does have the indent on the bottom, little flat indent, so you could, you know, make it stable and put it on a table. It's not going to go rolling because spheres are spheres. Spheres are circular. So a sphere is a sphere. It could go rolling. It has that motion. So it needs something at the bottom to anchor it. And so it's very much in the 3D now. And the way that I saw the Metatron Merkaba Cube design and the sphere holding container, that these images came from the 4th dimension to me. It didn't come from 2D or 3D. It came from the 4th dimension. Like I visually saw this when I was out in the 4th dimension. And to me, the beings in the 4th dimension, they said, and the beings, I mean energy. It's energy, pure energy beings in the 4D. They were 9 feet tall. The 9-footers, as Dana calls them, they said the colors need to be light blue and light purple because those are healing colors for healing energies, to receive healing, and also for knowledge and lessons, for being able to access universal knowledge. That's what they told me. So the frequencies and the colors were very specific. It had to be light blue and light purple, light blue for the Metatron Merkaba Cube, and light purple for the sphere. So in order to be able to do healing with it and meditation work, and to access universal knowledge from the universe, to connect, to receive uploads and downloads. And for me, it had to be 6 inches, because that's the perfect holding size to hold in your hands. But you could do it in 3 inches. It'll be this much, about this much, and 6 inches is about that much. And in terms of the price value, I've had this done, these 2 models with the sphere holding container. They were outsourced for professional 3D printing by Matthew Percival, 3D RE. And that's a 3D printing company in Canada. And the communication with him back and forth was great about the designs and the project. For 3D printing, he was very flexible, and he took all my ideas and concerns into account for this project, and it turned out great. He has great listening skills, and so does Dana. And we went back and forth on revising the projects and the shapes and the forms until everybody felt comfortable with what would be 3D printed. So Matthew is professional. So the Metatron Merkaba Cube, the 6-inch one, that's $500 Canadian, and the 3-inch one was $100 Canadian. So there's price ranges for the sizes. If you're going to be doing this in professional industrial capacity where you outsource the models to be printed by a 3D printer company, those are the standard price ranges. And I've checked other companies, they have similar price ranges. Because it takes the person time to interact with you, to get to know what you need, and then print the models. It took 21 hours to print everything. 21 hours for one item to be 3D printed. Because 3D printers work in layers, they go like this. They print PLA in layers. There's a nozzle where the PLA reel is, and it spins and it prints like this, the item, 3D prints. And some 3D prints have anchors that are made to hold the item while it's 3D printed. So if you have a complicated design, it's better to print it in several pieces if possible. Then you don't need those anchor points, because it can be printed in pieces and then glued together. If you have a more simplistic design, then it can be printed as a whole. So there's variations depending on what you design. Or you can, if you have your own 3D printer or printers, I'm making all the files for the Metatron Merkaba Cube and the sphere holding container. I'm making all the files available open source, so you'll be able to download them and print them for yourselves. So I'm not going to be selling these sacred geometry tools. This was an experiment to see if they could be 3D printed, because this has never been done before in the forms that we've printed them and we've checked. So this is a new project. This was a new experiment to try out, and it printed out successfully. I'm very happy with the outcomes. The colors are vibrant, the shapes are beautiful, and for me, it needed to be in these colors. The other options that people have is to print the models in gray color PLA. If you can't find a specific color that you really need, right? So you could print it in gray PLA, and then you can sand it, prime it, and Rust-Oleum products are really great. There's these special automotive primers. So you sand the item, if it's printed in gray, you sand it, you put the primer on it, and then you use also Rust-Oleum paint that's primer and paint mixed together. So it holds the paint pretty well. And that's Rust-Oleum products. That's if you want a specialized color you just can't get in PLA. Sometimes there's exotic colors. So Rust-Oleum automotive paint for all different types of objects and materials. It can go on wood, it could go on metal, it could go on plastic. So Rust-Oleum products are very resilient. Because I was also watching videos on how to do post touch-ups on 3D prints. If they come out a little rough, or if they need sanding, or if there's imperfections, because sometimes that can happen to a print model. You expect it to come out smooth and it comes out a little rough. So there's things that you could do in the post-processing to deal with that. And that would be to sand it. And there's different grits and grades of sand. You start with 320 grits or 120. 120 is the coarsest, and you go up and you gently sand the areas to get them ready for the primer. And the primer helps to even everything out. Then you sand the primer, and primer you want to get in gray. If you're just printing gray PLA, whatever model, you want to get the primer in gray, and then you want to get whatever paint, Rust-Oleum paint or other automotive paint. You want to make sure it'll go on the plastic, because PLA is plastic. And you can spray it several times. You hang the model on certain type of a cord. You can hang it on fishing cord or other cord that will hold and not stick to the model during the paint. Then you take it off, paint a little bit more, and you have a finished product in the specific color that you want. And I was considering that as well, because again, you can do so much with PLA. It's resilient. You can use all the colors of the rainbow for the printing. And what I found really interesting, when you print items separately, not as a solid object, not one whole solid, but in separate pieces, you can print it in different colors. Because when you're printing an item as a whole, right, then you can't be using two variations of colors. You have to be using one color, which for me was fine. It needed to be light blue. The Metatron Merkaba Cube needed to be in light blue, so I used the light blue. I was fine with it being printed in one color. But if you need multiple colors, you would need to print the parts in separate sections. And it can be in different colors for the PLA material. Then it's all glued together at the seams and you can't see anything. It's perfect. So that's another option. That's why it's good when sometimes things are printed in separate parts, because you can use separate colors. So this was a really great learning experience. And I came to the conclusion that, if somebody has a 3D printer like the Creality Ender 3S1, that's the newest 3D printer that's currently out, and it's around $450 plus with shipping and handling and tax. And the PLA material can range from $20 to $60, depending on what colors you need, depending on what strength. There's PLA, there's PLA plus. You're taking into account durability, color availability, so it could be slightly less expensive or more. And I would recommend the Creality Ender 3S1. And Matthew Percival was actually printing the models that he made for me. He was printing it on a Creality printer. So if somebody wants to do this at home for themselves, you're a spiritualist, you're a healer, you're a spiritual teacher, you're an artist, you can do this yourself at home. There's nothing stopping you from 3D printing. All you need is a good basic starter entry-level printer, which is Creality series is very good. So you can do this at home. There's a learning curve to doing it and to learning it, but it can be done and it's a beautiful process. I myself, I don't want to be going into 3D printing or selling the Metatron Merkaba cubes or the sphere holding container. For me, this was a spiritual experimental project of energy, of physicality, 3D, 4D, the process of experiencing something new and different, creating something that's never been created in quite that form into physicality, from energy into physicality. And the frequencies are very important, the colors, because it does need to vibrate for healing and for knowledge of downloads and uploads of information and knowledge, because it's a sacred geometry teaching tool that you work with. So for me, that was very important, color and size. And I'm very happy that I did this because I learned a lot about 3D printing, how it's done, why you would do it, why you would even create such a project. So for me, I got to learn something that I didn't know much about, 3D printing. I knew of the concepts that in reality, we have better 3D printers than what we had 20 years ago. So it was about learning, it was about understanding, and it was about processing the experience itself and working with a team and being open-minded and flexible and being very flexible to the possibilities and the range options and what I would be working with, and having open, honest communication with two engineers. One who works with, he's retired, Dana F is retired, but he still designs things in AutoCAD. And Matthew Percival, he's in the business of 3D printing things and reverse engineering items to print. So he could scan something and 3D print it for you. So he can make custom 3D prints, models from PLA and other types of materials. There's also resin printing. There's so many different options, but we went with PLA because resin printing, the color spectrums and choices and options are a little bit limited because resin has to be cured. So we went with PLA because PLA material, you print it, and if you need to do some post-processing on it to refine it, you can do that. And you don't have to wait to cure resin. And resin is a little bit more trickier. You're mixing liquids and colors and things and blending, then it prints even differently. So you have to do a lot of cleanup stuff. With PLA, it prints, right? It's on the print bed of the 3D printer. Then you gently take it off, remove the printing lines because it does have a little bit of a printing base, and it's layering the PLA. It leaves a little bit of a circle or a square. You just clean that off. You look at everything, and if you're happy with the model, you work with it. And if you need to refine it a little bit more, then you do the post-processing with the Rust-Oleum products and the sanding. It's easy to do. Anybody can do it. It's really an art form in and of itself. It's a beautiful process. So I just wanted to describe this whole experience from my perspective. And I took a lot of pictures of the models, the Metatron Merkaba Cube and the sphere holding container. I took a lot of different pictures and angles and what it's doing for me. It's protecting my home. I have it in my room where I sleep, the Metatron Merkaba Cube, and it's sitting in a 3D printed bowl. So it's actually sitting in a half container. And then I have the completed sphere holding container with the other Metatron Merkaba Cube that's going to be used for meditation. So I needed two of these models for slightly two different purposes. One is for stationary meditation that I do and to protect my home, and one is for meditations that I can go outside and carry it with me. So it needs to be movable and portable. So two different purposes. So I was creative in the thinking process. And I was consulting with Dana and Matthew. This took us about a month to figure out the shapes, the forms, the colors, the vibration, the sizes. So you can be as creative with it as you want. And the 3D printing opportunities are much better than, say, the 2000s, even when it first started. More options, more ideas, more what you could do in 3D, from 2D to 3D printing, and working with, I don't know anything about AutoCAD. I know nothing about AutoCAD. I sort of used a little program called Yagi.com at Yagi.com, little 3D modeling program, just to get to know what the process is like and figure out if the process would work for me. So I got to experiment with rendering and modeling from 2D to 3D. But these files that we created are open source, ready-made files for you guys to print from. We've already figured out the variables for the Metatron Merkaba Cube and the sphere holding container. So the sphere holding container opens up in two halves. So it screws and unscrews. It's an internal opening closing mechanism that has like a few lines inside it. So you open, close, and put the object inside, open, close. It's like any other plastic container that we see on creams, lip balms. You know, it has the same idea. So there's no external hinge anywhere on the sphere holding container. It's smooth and it opens and closes. So I had ideas because I have EOS lip balm, little container where the lip balm is in. So I already kind of knew the plastic mechanisms of what needed to be printing to be involved in the printing mechanism and to have that little indent at the bottom. So this is where my input came in, the colors, the shapes, where you need to put the indent, the mechanism. We thought about having a metal hinge on the sphere holding container, but then it wouldn't be so smooth when you hold it. And nobody wants a metal hinge on the outer shell container. So we just printed everything internally as the mechanism, and it's part of the plastic design. It has several lines and indents and curves inside. So the mechanism of opening and closing, that's inside. It's not outside of the sphere shell. So those are things, practical things that we thought about when designing a sphere holding container, because it has to be open, closed, put something inside, open, close, move it around. Portability. So there were practicalities involved in all of this, and a lot of thought. And this was a project of beauty, of creativity, and of exploration. And I'm very happy that I got to have this experience. For me, it was sacred and it was a beautiful learning experience. And I'm glad that I'm able to share this. And I'm going to be showing now the images and the pictures of what the Metatron Merkaba Cube and the sphere holding container look like. So this is what the 3D printed sacred geometry for meditation looks like. This is the Metatron Merkaba Cube, and it's sitting in the little half bowl. And it's an amazing looking item. It has all those spheres on it. It has the Merkaba shape. And we also had an option to get this 3D printed in the cube, like the actual cube. But we decided to have the 4th density dimensionality to this. It needed to have the shape of the cube, yet also the Merkaba factor of the cube, with the spheres as the connectors. So there's no lines running. There's no extra lines running here. It's just the spheres are the connector lines. And it's 12 base. So it is energetically balanced in the frequencies, in the colors. Now, in post-processing of images, I can make the colors anything I want. So this looks like it's dark blue with purple, but it's actually light blue and light purple. But I wanted to show the different variations of which you can do, because with PLA it can be in different colors. So it's just amazing what you can do with PLA. And so you're seeing the various options that you can do here. And I also have a Merkaba, like I have a Metatron Merkaba sphere that's made from crystal and glass, and the Merkaba and the cube are etched inside of it with laser. So that's something else that you can work with, because again, it has that same form factor, but this is crystal glass, and it has the laser etching inside of it of the cube, the Merkaba, and the spheres. So you can have this stuff in multiple materials. And it looks great in both the PLA, crystal glass, and laser etching. It's beautiful. And you can see the vibrant colors of the PLA. It has vibrancy, it has movement, it has shine, it has everything. And the form factors are amazing. And this is a up-close view of the Metatron Merkaba Cube with the spheres, the 12 base, and the little half bowl. And then you see the completed sphere holding container. So it's very beautiful how it looks like. And this is what I was talking about, the holographic meditation display with the fractal portal artwork and having those little dragons and that dragonfly, the dragonfly made from crystals, and the owl that's also made from crystals. So it's really powering the fractal portal artwork, because that's a portal, that's a protective portal that's running in my bedroom right now. It's protecting me and it's protecting my house. And then you have underneath that, you have the Metatron Merkaba Cube in light blue with the half bowl in light purple. And it's literally energetically amplifying the portal, fractal portal artwork that's protecting me and my home with positive energies. So everything is balancing each other. It's quite beautiful. And I never thought this would come in this form, how this would turn out this way, but it turned out that way, and it's beautiful. That's the beauty of experimentation, energetically experimenting and playing with thought forms, with creation, with different dimensions. So I love how this all turned out. For me, it's wonderful. And again, this is information about Matthew and how people can contact him at 3DRE, his website, his name, and also Dana F., who helped me with this project with the modeling and the rendering aspects of the designs. And this is kind of like my little write-up about the experience, what I thought. And this is on my blog, Ileana's Messages from a Star Traveler. So if anybody wants to see the write-up, it's there. What I thought of the experience and my perspectives on it. And this is Dana's 3D rendering, because this is what we started off with. This is the 3D rendering. You start from 2D going into 3D renders, and it's beautiful. It's an amazing experience. So you can see the renders. You could see the creation of the Metatron Merkaba Cube. That's in dark blue. That's what we started off with in light purple for the sphere holding container. And you can see how it's opened, full opening and then sort of opening, closing, that mechanism, what I was talking about. And you could see the thicknesses and the layers of what was needed for the sphere holding container. Because again, PLA is printed in layers, so you need to know the thickness. And that's already included in the files. The files are formatted because we thought about everything. And it has that little indent at the bottom for it to be able to sit on a solid surface, on a table or anywhere else. And what it looks like in its opening stages for the sphere holding container. And then you have the Metatron Merkaba Cube inside the sphere holding container as if it was transparent, so you could see it from all viewpoints. So the sphere holding container that I have is not transparent. It's not translucent. So it is not translucent or transparent. It is solid PLA material. If you're doing resin printing, you can get it in a more transparent print, 3D print, but we went with solid PLA. But in AutoCAD, when you 3D render something, you could actually see what it would look like if it was transparent. When you're doing rendering, modeling, you can see all angles and sides, and you can see what the Metatron Merkaba Cube looks like on its own. And it had connecting lines, which we figured out we didn't need. Those little thin lines, we didn't need those between the spheres because the spheres are the connecting lines. So you don't need anything in between that. And this is what Dana was playing around with in showing the Metatron Merkaba Cube in the aspects of the ratios, looking at it from all angles and sides. And again, this is the contact information for Matthew. So it's quite, again, how you can contact Matthew at 3DRE. And I have the whole PDF file as well. And you can see what that looks like with all the information about the process. So I wanted to share that and show that to people so that people can have an idea what the stuff looks like, because it's wonderful. So this is the PDF file creating the 3D printed Metatron Merkaba Cube with sphere holding container. And this is just me describing the process of choosing the colors, the shapes, the size. So that's what I'm describing here. And that's for my blog write-up. And doing the project at Energy Base 12. And that was important. And again, the size, the color, the PLA material, working with Matthew. So I'm describing, that's what I'm describing, how to contact Matthew and how to work with him, and also providing the link for the open source files for you guys to be able to print the models for yourselves if you want to. So the link is there, and this is all on my Ileana's Messages from a Star Traveler blog. And you can also find it at Messages from a Star Traveler Mystic Arts and Healing website. That's my main one, and on my blog, and all the links will be included. This is a beautiful rendition of a Metatron Cube. And again, it's utilizing the Merkaba, the cube, and the spheres. I call them the spheres of light, spheres of life. That's what this energy feels like and looks like to me. And that's what started the whole design process. And of course, the round sphere itself. So those are all elements that are part of the Metatron Merkaba Cube design that we 3D printed in the sphere holding container. And this is again Dana's design, 3D printing design of the Metatron Merkaba Cube with a sphere holding container, and the colors of what we were trying to figure out. And that's the sphere holding container. And this is me describing things about it. This is the thickness layer for the sphere holding container. Opening the sphere holding container into halves. The sphere holding container with a Metatron Merkaba Cube inside it, having a 360-degree transparent view in AutoCAD, because you can do that in that program to see what it looks like. The Metatron Merkaba Cube itself in dark blue, but it turned out to be light blue when we printed it. And it doesn't have these connector lines. It's purely connected by the Merkaba and the spheres, because it didn't need the lines, connector lines. This is what the Metatron Merkaba Cube looks like in its 3D printed version. And it's using the beautiful purple one in the middle to see what the angles would look like, because that's what my inspiration for it was. And then that playing around with a different color to see again what the 3D printed objects would look like in dark blue and dark purple, or light blue and light purple. I did play around with the colors as well. And I used to be a professional photographer. So I play with light spectrums and light colors quite a bit. I play with light and frequency when I take photos. So it's really about the energies and the frequencies of the colors and the light and the energetics. And that's the beautiful crystal glass Metatron Merkaba sphere with the etchings inside it, glass etchings of, again, the Merkaba with the spheres in the cube. So you can meditate with that if you want. This is the Metatron Merkaba Cube sitting in the half bowl for meditation. And you can see the vibrancy of the light blue and the light purple / pink. It's very PLA, can be in beautiful colors. And you see the top, sort of an aerial view of the Merkaba with the cube and the spheres. And that's what I'll be meditating with. That's what I'll be holding in my hands when I actually go to meditate with it. And it has a beautiful healing frequency and a wisdom-based frequency. And that's the sphere holding container. That's the light purple, and it opens and closes in the middle. And that's where inside of it is the Metatron Merkaba Cube. It's inside of it. So it's the holding container for it, and it can travel, and it's portable. And this is my fractal art portal display that's protecting my bedroom. It's a beautiful protective portal energy. And underneath is the Metatron Merkaba Cube that's amplifying the energies of the portal system for my protection and energy healing. And this is what the presentation looked like. And it's playing with colors, playing with blues, grays, and different aspects and perspectives of color and vibration. So important. The frequencies are so important here. And even when I was making the presentations and the documentation of this whole process, even for the presentations, the colors were so important, because these are 3D printed sacred geometry tools. So the colors so vibrant and beautiful. And I just wanted to show that to you guys so you could see what the presentations even look like. And again, I love the Metatron Merkaba Cube in this blue, and it represents everything, all the solids, all the energetics that are part of it. It's quite amazing to see that. That's beautiful. Yeah, so that's the completed documentation for this project and everything that's connected to it. So I just wanted to share that with everybody so you guys could have an idea of what was involved in this project and how it turned out. And if you want to 3D print these models for yourselves, the All the files will be available in the video description links, so you can download it and use it with 3D printers. So thank you so much, and namaste.